Hello, grown Black folks talk. We continue on in our discussions around the Will and Chris incident. As I've said in my previous video, I'm quite disturbed that so many people are just agreeing with this idea that basic human rights do not matter and that a man can say something about a woman and that her man should go and knock this person, that slap them, do physical violence, violate their human rights. I thought about it some more because this is really very disturbing to me. And I thought to myself, we have been overexposed and desensitized to violence such that some people out here talk about a slap isn't violence under certain circumstances, but you're not going to feel it when it hits your face that way. But I recognize these things happen because we do not understand the 5 areas of human strength that make for a more just, fair, and peaceful society. Because there's other ways to handle conflict and even to avoid conflict and to move forward in acquiring the resources necessary for yourself and for your family and for your community than resorting to abuse physically or verbally. But again, we have an oversaturation. The United States is at a very anti-intellectual moment, which is why violence is becoming the default again. So in that sense, if all you look at is becoming violent, so we must become violent with it, Black people in the United States don't have a police force or army to our name. But again, it takes intellectual strength to have thought all the way down because that's foresight, that's long-term thinking. And if you have not developed in that area, it doesn't make you worse than anybody else. It just means that you might want to seek healing, growth, and maturation of your human heritage because those 5 areas of strength are available to all human beings. And segments of society that cultivate all 5 are stronger and richer than those that don't. People that cultivate all 5 tend to be stronger and richer than those that don't. I just submit that for your consideration. Obviously, physical strength is number 1. You exist, you are a human being. That's a given if you are healthy. But then what do you do with it? Well, most of the times, the most human thing to do and the level we come to this earth with is our emotions determine the needs of the body, and our emotional needs determine what happens next. So the next area to gather strength is, of course, emotional. Now, there are 2 kinds. If you do not develop this area of strength, you will be forever manipulated by people who know how to manipulate your emotions. This is the first area of strength, which allows you to be a sovereign person. Because if you can control your emotions, then other people cannot control you through your emotions. People talk about master your feelings. Don't let your feelings master you. Because this is most of the times how we let our physical body get into trouble. You know, I don't know what Chris Rock's motivation was to tell that little joke, that jab, whatever his emotional state was, that caused him a little bit of trouble. I can understand what caused Will to do what he did, but being unable to regulate his emotions in that moment could have caught him an assault charge. It's just that Chris Rock has decided not to press charges, but that's today. That's often what happens. On a woman's side, we get manipulated into having sex and having babies, but people, we do not need to do that through our emotions. So one of the ways that you have to do to gain strength is through your emotions. Emotional self-regulation is extremely important. Also, knowing when to invest your emotions completely is also another form of emotional strength. You can't be like this all the time. You can't be like this all the time. Because the people of your choice need your love. And they need you to have sufficient hatred for the things that would damage them. I have served in my local Black community for 32 years. And having been given an opportunity to do something else, I was offered an opportunity to buy best at 16. And my thought was, there were people who were going to pay my way to Harvard and Yale. And my thought to myself was, when I come back, will I still care about the people that I care about now? And what is grandmother going to do, because she's getting older and it's harder for mom to care for by herself. So what is going to happen to mom and grandmother if I leave? I decline both. Now, people would say to me that that's stupid, but when you know that you're called, you're called. I love my people. And also, because I have fully invested my love into my people, I hate racism and oppression. And I have both of these without reservation. I love children in general. You want to have anybody have me flip out on them? Mess with some kid in front of me. I am a mama bear to the extreme. This is side note to the side note. While I'm not terribly thrilled about our Supreme Court nominee right now, I recognize what she's trying to do, but her stance on pedophiles makes me nervous. That's a whole nother video. We'll deal with that another day. But those are a couple things about me. I hate what I hate, and because I love what I love. And knowing how to make emotional investments is very, very important. Most people who I am around would tell you that I'm a deeply loving person. I invest very deeply into them and into anything that we are doing together. But they also will tell you that in the previous 5 years, I have also limited how much of that I do. Because investing your love correctly is important. Investing your hatred is correct. I said that I hate racism. I did not say that I hated any particular group of people. That's incorrect investment because not all people, even of the vanilla persuasion, support racism. They never have. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not a majority, but I'm just going to say it doesn't do any good to hate individuals. We want to deal with individuals as they show themselves to us, but hating individuals is an incorrect investment. So the strength to be able to invest and divest one's emotions. So you have one is investment, the other one's control. Both of these aspects of control, regulating your emotions in the moment and then making proper investments. That's emotional strength. When you develop that, you stop living by the dictates of other people designed to appeal to your emotions. You stop being a victim of retail manipulation as well. And then when you do face insult, you're like, you can say you can insult me till you blue in the face. The only person who stayed you changed is you. I already know who I am. I'm good over here. I'm good over here. I'm not giving you access to my emotions. Emotional strength, moral strength. Is there a code or a set of standards that you follow? Not that you try to impose on other people. That's very different. That's manipulation. But your moral strength is whatever code you have, we're not going to dispute which one it is right now. Standards to make it really easy. Once you've chosen it, do you live with it with integrity? Do you follow it with integrity? Do you follow something that tells you how you approach different situations and people in life? This is moral strength. Do you have a code of honor? That's very common, a particular code of honor. There are many, like I said. And then moral, however, this is the first level of strength that allows you to bond with other people. The military has codes, rules of engagement, and codes for how things are done in different armed forces. And these men form lifelong bonds around the code and the mission to which it belongs. This is the first area that allows you to form very strong bonds with other people who are on similar belief systems. Now, moral codes are drawn from higher levels of things. We're going to come to areas like that. But this is the other thing. When the emotions are tempted to break over, an appeal to a code is the next step up. I'm ready to pound this person, but I have the strength to stay on code. I'm ready to put so-and-so's business in the street, but the code says we don't do that. We don't do that to one another. We try very hard not to air people out like that. We don't do, family honor. We don't put family business in the street. Those are all aspects of having a strong, this is moral strength. Now, at this point, you've got different codes clash. We live in a postmodernist age, so you're going to have problems with that. But with being quote unquote agnostic right now toward where you get the code from, but that is a form of strength also. Now, in the middle of this, doing this effectively in the information age, it particularly requires intellectual strength. Now, intellectual strength has always existed. We just value it a little bit differently today than we have before because there's so much information we have to sort out to make decisions about how to operate. Even if you have a strong code, what is the best way to work with it? Because I'm a veteran's daughter, I tend to think about this in this way: strategy and tactics. Put a pin there, I'll come back to it. Intellectual strength, however, allows you to do things. We talk about vetting, we talk about discernment. How do you take information from around you and synthesize it and put it back out in a form that's useful to you? How do you learn from other people's experiences and synthesize them into what you might also do through strategy and tactics? Because there's useful information from history, philosophy, spiritual systems, and then it's like you have to be able to figure out, where do I fit in and where does that fit in? And now, if I have if okay, this is the situation, here is a set of things that I can do. Which of them do I choose? Tactics. Or if I have time to do this, what set of tactics is most likely to achieve my objectives? Strategy. Neither is superior to the other, because there are going to be times in life where you have to improvise, and there'll be times you can plan ahead. The person who plans ahead is doing strategy, and the person who has to improvise a little bit more or just responds to situations on the ground is a tactician, is doing tactics. And people naturally fall into one or both, one more easily than another. There's some people, they don't want to do anything they haven't planned ahead. These are the world's greatest everyday strategists. If you let them have time to plan ahead, but oftentimes they're friends with people who know how to be more improvisational in the moment, who are natural tacticians walking around loose. In world history, the intellect of the strategist, generally given long enough, will beat, though, the best tactician. One of the reasons I am sitting here as a pre-Black woman today is because finally the Civil War's greatest strategist had enough time to be the Civil War's greatest tactician. Ulysses S. Grant was the Civil War's greatest strategist. The war's greatest tactician was Robert E. Lee. Lee lost, Grant won. That's why I'm sitting here today. So in the long run, and you see this in history again and again and again and again, strategy is a higher form of intellectual strength, use of intellectual strength than tactics in the long run. But sometimes it does occur sometimes that just because situations change quickly, that may not be in a strategy, you want to have a good tactician who you know and can call, be like, well, this I didn't plan for. You got any ideas? You need both. Again, at this level of strength, collaboration, because remember, we've already established a code. Now we can find people that operate on the same code, and now we can work together. So now we're really beginning to build something here. Now, as I said, the moral and codes are going to sometimes come, and some of the intellectual knowledge are now going to come from the area of spiritual strength. Now, when you put the spiritual in there and you combine these top four, now you're going to generally get this whole thing called, when somebody says this is a wise person, this wise person is now operating generally in at least four, three of those, physicals are given, but at least three, and spiritual gives you number four. So they're operating in all five. When you meet somebody who's wise, you probably are meeting someone who's operated in all five well. Because the spiritual strength, this is how my ancestors survived 13 generations of very bad stuff. They weren't allowed to develop their intellect to the extent that we think of today, but they also produced this thing called the Negro spiritual. They produced some of the greatest stories that have ever been told because they had that native intellect, but what kept them going was their faith that there was a God. Now, there were some people who were practicing Islam. There were some people who were practicing native African religions. There were some people who were practicing Christianity when they got here, and a lot more learned it when they came. And then there's some people who are practicing an amalgam, and that's actually still true to this day. But the point is, the African viewpoint was one that was deeply connected with the spiritual world. Now, again, for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to argue for Christianity being the superior position, even though it is my position. Not in this video. The point that I'm going to make, however, is that even when we talk about spiritual strength, there is spiritual warfare, and you do need to know who you're with. Not all spirits are holy. But the person that has spiritual strength understands this and is able to get in tune and in step, and therefore is able to operate Understanding that the universe is almost, well, actually, not even almost, the universe is infinitely abundant. As a Christian, I walk with someone who created the universe out of nothing. So whatever it is that I need, if it doesn't exist, he can make it happen. But since the universe he exists is abundant, just because I don't have it doesn't mean I can't get it. Because he can make somebody bring me something. Y'all just do not know how many times I have been praying for things, and in the time period between the year that I prayed for it and the year that it actually happened, what I'm asking for did not exist yet. I'm doing things that Beethoven asked for in terms of being able to show up somewhere with some art and get paid and get about your business. I'm doing things that were asked for 200 years ago that didn't exist when I was asking for it. And so this is how I get to operate now. This is sometimes what happens. Things that don't exist can become available already for you because you recognize that I can ask for the things that I need on an extra natural and even supernatural level. Now, there is a difference. I'm not going to get into that right now. A lot of these things are covered under what's called providential, is kind of the old term for, they're basically natural processes that are accelerated or changed in some way, but they're not the national. They're not the usual operation, but they're still natural processes, therefore extra natural, not supernatural, which is above and beyond any natural process to do. That's a whole nother video. Point is, the person that walks in spiritual strength does not understand the idea that something is absolutely impossible. And because they are walking in abundance, they can be free of hand about physical resources. Spiritual people are very generous because they know in this realm, what I took out, if it's meant to be done, will come back. So let me do what I know is right, and the rest will come back. This is why you can meet people who are very poor who do not seem to be lacking for anything. You do not see any reason why this is. This is also why our ancestors not only were able to endure, but overcome many times. You don't know about Nat Turner. You don't know about what happened and how Black people in Haiti got free. You don't hear about Harriet Tubman and a lot of things about her faith. But this is that region of strength that goes with that. And in the absence of all the other four, well, the absence of physical at least, and the actual absence of intellectual development, this one will carry you. In fact, any 2 or 3 of these can carry you quite a long way. But if you meet someone who has all 5, this is the balance of strengths that actually makes for people who reign in life. The appeal to the physical and the appeal to emotional abuse is the lowest form of moving through life. Now, is self-defense necessary? Yes, it is. But I'm not talking about that. What we saw was 2 incidences of an appeal to abuse. That's the lowest form of domineering. And the sad thing about it is, ladies, mostly, because I know who my subscriber base is, and gentlemen, because there are some of you here, when people who have developed all 5 areas see people who big up abusing the physical and the emotional, we don't say anything to you. We're not going to slap you. We're not going to make a joke about you, because our emotional control, our emotional investment, our moral codes, our intellectual development, and our spiritual belief system is not going to allow us to do that. But we shut you out. This is why I told those of you who disagree, you come and talk about it, but you be careful how those of you who don't agree, you can see yourselves out. That's fine. I will engage with you to the point you get disrespectful, you leaving, because I'm not budging on this. Because what happens is your leveling up stops real quick when people find out that at your heart of hearts, you still default to the weakest position possible. Even when people who have all 5 strength areas are bad. See, the bad men that understand these 5 determine what happens in everybody's street. While people who are dealing with just spiritual, their spiritual abuse, like I said, you can have all 5 areas of strength and be a very bad person. It doesn't make you better because there are differing codes. But this is how it is that some men, without ever having to raise their hand to anyone's face, determine what happens in streets around the world. And other men die in those streets, and they're predetermined, in the fate predetermined for them, because they have not gathered the strength to be able to break out of their positions. And other men, like my father and most of the ones that I've known, can go into those same streets and find ways to bring peace and help and change. See, there are 5 strength good guys and there are 5 strength bad guys. And if you don't develop, you get to live your life as a pawn. A lot of people are talking about, was that staged? Was that a ritual of some kind? If it is, then you have to look at the fact that because they have not developed sufficiently, they were just pawns playing, the actors playing a role. And considering that both of these men are mature ages and millionaires, a couple of zeros different between them, that just tells you that they have not developed. That was a great display of personal immaturity in men who were old enough that you think you know better. However, development of the other 4 kinds of strength is not like your physical strength. Your physical strength comes because you grow up if you're healthy. The other 4 have to be developed. And here's what happens. A lot of you who are on my channel, who are on Themis and Thought channel, are really tired of a certain type of Black man. And you want to talk about divesting and swirling. As you are doing so, you need to work on developing the 4 higher types of strength that have to be developed. Because it does not matter what color the man is. If you cannot appreciate that he's able to use a range of resources beyond just physically reacting, if you need defending, now he should be able to do that. But if he sees that you're not capable of understanding or appreciating why a physical response, why an emotionally abusive response, if he's a good man with a good moral code, that good moral code, if he's a good man with good spirituality, if he's a good man who's smart, he's going to leave you right there. Now, if he has a bad moral code and a bad spirituality, he may still enjoy you. That happens at higher levels. A man can be balanced or imbalanced and be any race, class, or creed. Part of being able to vet men at the higher levels has to do with developing the skills that will allow you to attract men at a higher level. So I would suggest work on these 4 in addition to the physical. The other thing is, hold on just a second, y'all. Elder's time. My mother needed something. The other thing is, you as a person will live a more quiet, peaceful, and powerful life as you develop these, and will be able to make better collaborations across the spectrum of your life. You need these areas of strength because you are a human being, and it is your birthright to be able to develop them. Because again, human beings across race, class, and creed are in different stages. Now, if you are someone who's listening to me and you basically live in an environment where only the 2, physical violence and emotional abuse, are basically what is valued, that doesn't make you worse than anybody else who's been able to develop. It just means you need to start on the same journey. Healing, growth, maturation. That's the only difference. I was born in a neighborhood that had a crack house 5 doors down. I was around people who had fully developed, and they were able to shield me with their variety of strength. Now, would my father have blown away anybody? Sure. Had he had to do it, he could have. I know where the bullets are now. I have a rough idea where he has the guns as well. Do I know where they are in his closet? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. But he used the other 4 to actually keep those situations from breaking out around here. So I know something about this. I'm not talking out of the side of my neck. And because of that, I was able to be at a younger age to develop the kind of discipline necessary to become strong. What I wasn't allowed to do as much of was play outside. So a sedentary lifestyle became part of the package, which is part of the way that I got to the size I am today. Didn't develop the habits of being as physically active and playing outdoors every day. You can't have everything. So now the neighborhood is gentrified. Now I play outdoors every day, or at least get my hiking poles and do my walks and work on my spiritual, my intellectual, my physical, and my emotional at the same time. And if I meet anybody, then I exercise my moral, all 5. Does this mean you're going to get everything you want out of life? No, it does not. But what it does mean is that you live a richer, fuller human experiences, full of human experience with the ability to choose among many ways to react to situations in your life. And you get to choose ways that are more powerful and more peaceful. And this is what I wish for everyone who listens to me. The most powerful and peaceful way of conducting a successful life possible, as opposed to encouraging behaviors in which nobody wins. It is very hard to win a 5-point game. Something that takes 5 points to work with, using a weak 2. Just saying. All right. It's a long video. For those of you who stayed and listened to it, now you know. Now you're responsible. Healing, growth, maturation. You have a good day now. Goodbye. And thank you for listening.